Go Mustang, the Coach Alexander Show, brought to you by Kim Assad, your real estate broker.
Hello, Mustang Nation. Matt Carnes, Grapevine Booster here for Week 8 of the Coach Mike Alexander Show with head coach of your Grapevine Mustangs, Mike Alexander. And happy to report that Team 99 has brought the Red Rail. It's home. Coach, it was a big night Friday night. We got a few other things to talk about, but right off the top, just tell us how you're feeling after the game Friday night.
I'm just so happy for our kids. You know, it's at the end of the day, it's just another game on the schedule. You know, it's a district game, so it's important in that regard. But I mean, let's be honest. This goes far past just the season, because this is something now that our kids, you know, they can walk around this community with their chest out for the next year and know that the Red Rail's back home where it needs to be, and they're the reason for it.
Well, it was a fantastic night. We're going to get into all that, but it was a great week. Started early in the week, great week all the way through. So tell us, before we get into the football week that started on Thursday, talk about the other sports with cross country and volleyball and tennis. Just talk about some of the other success Grapevine enjoyed this week.
Yeah, so, I mean, our cross country team, just start with those guys and girls. There's not a harder working group on campus than they are. And, you know, they train year round, all summer. You know, while our football team's up here doing champions course, they're running around the track and, you know, running through the streets of Grapevine and Colleyville, and you know, not a lot of people see it. Not a lot of people come and are able to celebrate with them. But man, they had a great regional meet. I think the girls placed second, and so we were really proud of that. And so, you know, Coach Miller and his little army, they just keep rolling. And bring, you know, it brings a lot of pride to our school when we know that, you know, just other than on the football field and, you know, on the court, but just everywhere in general, you know, our kids are excelling. And then, you know, tennis had another bounce back year, and you know, really put Grapevine tennis back on the map. You know, it's been a couple years since they'd won their state championships, and for our young tennis team this year to go out and to compete at the regional tournament and do as well as they did, we were you know, sure proud of them. And then volleyball, man, whew, those girls are something to watch. You know, the gym was packed Tuesday night, and
the scene.
Oh, the student body was, you know, on fire, and they were excited, and those girls played with such heart and passion, and you know, and then for them to come out on Friday before the Red Rail game and go ahead and finish it off and become district champs. You're just really proud of those girls. And so there's a lot of positive stuff going on at Grapevine High School. We truly are, you know, the home of champions, and it's, you know, I'm proud to just be a part of it.
Well, after all that, we moved into football on Thursday night, and you went 3 out of 4 in the sub games. Tell me about the freshmen and JV guys.
Well, you know, they had a really good night on Thursday. You know, our freshmen took both over there at Heritage High School, and in convincing fashion, really both games, and then our JV blue team dominated the early game on Thursday. JV Red didn't play their best game of the year, competed really well, competed really hard. Ended up losing by 6, and you know, Heritage. They had a new kid move in on the JV the other night that gave us fits. He's such a good player. You know, I think he accounted for 3 of their 4 touchdowns, intercepted a couple passes late. He was very good. Yeah, and so you know, but I was so proud of our JV Red team, and they didn't stop fighting. They had a couple opportunities there at the end of the game to try and take it over. Just couldn't get it done at the end. But you know, they you know, to go 4-1 against Heritage on the week, we'll take it.
I had a feeling you might. It was a good night. So then you move ahead. Breakfast of Champions. I'm telling you, men, dads, if you're not part of Breakfast of Champions, you're missing out. You got to be there 7 o'clock Friday morning, bring enough food for the kids. But this week, to say that the Earl brothers were on fire.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit of an understatement. They told the story of the real McCoy,
Yeah.
And it actually carried into Friday night with their real McCoy story. But Tell me what your thoughts of the real McCoys were.
Well, that was neat. I'd always heard the saying, and I probably embarrassed to say that I never knew the whole story.
Right.
And but to know the history behind it, it definitely motivated our kids. Anytime you have two high schools in one community, and you have to share a spotlight, and then when the Earl brothers brought that analogy of the real McCoy, I mean, our kids, I think took it to heart. And so when I walked up to talk to them at the end of the game after the school song, I heard some of our kids, saying it, and so anytime they can, they can internalize something that they hear at Breakfast Champions, and then they regurgitate it back, after a football game, that it's sinking in. And so thank you, John and Guy. We appreciate you. Y'all are always welcome in our field house.
Well, just the presentation that they put on, working back and forth. They've done it before. Of course, they're twins. They kind of know each other, as they should. But that was quite a message that they were able to weave together. So I'm telling you, men of the community, don't miss out. Breakfast of Champions Friday mornings. Be there. It's worth it. You go from there, and we moved to the stadium. Of course, it was a Dragon Stadium this week. Start off with the Walk of Honor, and our very own Booster Club president, Mark Assad, got a big award. Congratulations to Mark. He's here working in the production room for us today. He got the Dave Campbell Community Service Award, so congratulations to him. And congratulations to all those in the Walk of Fame. I don't think y'all probably got to see a lot of it in the pregame warm-ups, but there's some pretty impressive folks coming to the Walk of Fame.
Yeah, we obviously didn't get to see it, but just reading through all those honorees and their bios, and what great tradition our school district has. It was an honor just to be a part of that whole process on Friday.
Well, they're going to be a part of the new great stadium that we'll get into soon here, we hope. But you get through all that, and we have kickoff.
Yeah.
The game starts.
Yep.
So before we get into the plays, and we're going to go through in depth a lot of the plays here, the score, not indicative of the stats. It was amazing just how dominant it was from the very beginning. But I mean, it's just amazing to talk about because you won all three phases of the game. You have a kicker making a tackle. You have the other team kick the ball away from your dangerous guys to another guy who scores a touchdown. It was just one thing after another. You just had heroes popping up left and right. So before we go into the specific highlights, tell us your thoughts of the game in
Well,
general.
Anytime you play a heritage football team, you know that offensively they're going to be a tough challenge. Coach Willis is a fantastic offensive mind, and doesn't matter who he rolls out there on offense, he knows how to get first downs and move the football. The difference, I believe, was our defense and how they really rose up, when we got in the red zone and we got them to fourth down. And, we played, I think we were 6 for 6 on fourth down stops. That's huge, but that's almost the equivalent of getting, in some cases, an extra 3 turnovers, especially if they're going forward, at midfield or somewhere around there. So that was a huge deal for our kids to, we kind of played bend don't break between the 20s, and then clamped it down inside the red zone, and then in the special teams, it was great to execute a field goal. It was great to return a kick for a touchdown, but we did give up one too, for a touchdown. So we weren't flawless in the kicking game by any stretch, and we still have work to do. But between defense, kicking game, and then the offense just being efficient, we didn't have many 3 and outs. We were able to go out on the field and get first downs, which is important. There were especially, we'll see it here in the video here in a minute, but when we got backed up, when they punted, after we got our fourth down stop and we got backed up all the way inside the 5, and we were able to come out and get a couple first downs and change the field position, that's huge. So offense, defense, kicking game, all 3 phases, I think, did their job. And then you got Tim Drysdale, the X factor, adding in 2 touchdowns that you can't account. You know, you don't go into that game. You don't go into that game counting on 2 defensive scores. You know, and so those 14 points are, you know, just kind of icing on the cake. But anyway, so yeah, it was all around a good night.
Well, you talk about Tim. I don't know if you've seen it or not. You probably have because you're pretty active with all the electronic and social media. But Tim got an award for Defensive Player of the Week this week.
Tim's going to end up getting a couple awards this week. So Tim is going to be awarded the Inside High School Sports Player of the Week next Saturday night. He and I will go to NBC and we will do an interview. And Tim's going to get his own bobblehead. So that'll be a cool thing for Timmy.
Nice.
And then we found out last night that Timmy was also going to be recognized, or is recognized this week, as Dallas Morning News Sports Day Defensive Player of the Week, and then our team was WFAA Chevy Team of the Week. So a lot of accolades to go around this week, a lot of praise for the Mustangs, and so you know, just really proud of our guys and in their fight and how they approached last week.
Well, there's a couple of key factors leading up to that. You talk about the 4th down stops. There was a lot of offside penalties on those 4th downs that moved them back 5 yards, and you could tell that their offense was nervous at times and jumping to try to figure out what y'all were going to do, and it just hurt them all night long.
Yeah, you know, it's hard to know what always attributes to those things, but I know we were moving our front around a little bit, depending upon backfield action, motion, and different things, and anytime you have an active defense, that can trigger some of that. Whatever it was, we'll take it. You know, I know I like fourth and 6 better than 4th and 1. You know, I like our odds there better. You know, and then you know you got to give credit to our offense too, because we were 1 for 1 on 4th down stops and ended up punching in for a touchdown. So you know, all around, I was pleased with our kids. Well, I was beyond pleased with our kids' effort. You know, that's a big game. You know, a lot of emotion. We talked a lot on Thursday night in our team meeting about seizing the moment and opportunity, and you know, I just challenged them to not let the moment be too big for them, and boy, they didn't back down a bit. they rose up and definitely defined the moment.
Well, you had, in the last 2 years, the game has really been dictated by turnovers. Turnovers played a factor this year. Tim had the 2 that he scored on both of, and they had the 1 turnover that y'all were able to keep him out of the end zone on. So that was big. So turnovers were there, but they really weren't the swing factor in this game this year.
No, I think it was just a lot of it was just, you know, the times we did get, you know, the times where they had a little bit of momentum going in their direction, whether it was, you know, our offense or our kicking game, we responded pretty quick, you know.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, you can't overstate, you know, Tim's scoop and score. I mean, they were, you know, at that point it was I think 17-7, and they're going in to score, and you know, put the ball on the ground. Tim scoops it up. Next thing you know, it's 24-7. You know, that was a big point in the football game right there, just to, you know, keep that gap narrow, or, you know, keep the gap from getting too narrowed, I guess. So you know, it was a good night all the way around. Like you know, I said after the game, I feel honored to be this team's coach. I'm excited for not, you know, just this week, but what the rest of this season has in store for us.
Well, I'll tell you, as a Mustang fan and dad, the character that was demonstrated on that field and making us parents proud to be a part of the Mustang, we appreciate what you're doing, because as the coach goes, so goes the team. So we appreciate your leadership, and definitely a good job, and made us proud to be Mustangs. So
thank you.
Congratulations and thanks for that. Now, we'll get into some highlights here, and I'll let you take over and go into coach speak.
Yeah, so we'll just look at. I have about 20 clips here that are just kind of encapsulate the game and just kind of go in sequential order. This is the back end of the first drive where we got the ball. Now at this point we've had several first downs, and And I highlighted this play just because I wanted to demonstrate our unselfish play by these receivers down here. I mean, these guys, you know, they get paid to catch football, right, and make plays. But what a lot of people don't see is anytime Roshan is popping a touchdown run, it's usually because they're blocking really well, and that play right there on the first drive just shows the work that they're doing all the time. And then we ended up getting stopped. We had a little penalty and get backed up a little bit, but able to settle for a field goal. But anytime you can get points, you know, in your opening drive, that's a big deal. You want to do that. You don't want to get, you know, come out empty-handed. Kicked off to them, and you know they did. They moved down the field on their opening drive, and we get them to a 4th and 1 on the 1 yard line, or 4th and goal on the 1, and Cam Hamway comes up real big right here, sheds a block, gets off, and gets quarterback bottled up and for a big stop, and you know it was a lot of emotion on the sideline. I think that really charged up our guys, you know, and got them fired up and ready to finish this game. Obviously, coming off your goal line, that's, you know, it's kind of a nervous deal. We were able to get a couple first downs here, and then Vergara catches a little in route, makes a kid miss, and really gives us some breathing room out to midfield. Can't overstate how big a play that was to flip the field position. I think the first quarter kind of fizzled out, ended up 3-0, which you never would have thought in a million years. You know, you end up 59-20 after a 3-0 start to the second quarter. But Vergara gets us going here early in the second. Kay gives him a nice ball. He gets a little separation, makes a one-handed grab.
That was incredible.
Yeah. I mean, we watched it over and over from every angle, you know, you could imagine. He's such a high-energy guy, probably the most fierce competitor on our team. We joke a lot about, you know, anytime there's some new wrinkle that we want to do, you know, who can do it? Vergara. You know, you need somebody to play corner, Vergara. You need somebody to, you know, do whatever. And you know, we feel like he's one of those just competitors that can do anything. Get in the red zone after Vergara's catch. And this is where David Clayton really, really helps our football team, because, you know, he didn't have a bunch of catches the other night, but he draws so much attention down here in the red zone. You can see when he stops, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 guys with their eyes on him, you know, which allows Jack Ertz to just come completely clean in the back of the end zone. And so, you know, anytime people wonder how come, you know, David's numbers over the last week or two aren't what maybe they used to be, it's because he's got a lot of eyes on him.
Well, we talked about that last week, too, because you have 8 guys with significant yardage. You want to clamp down on David, fine.
That's right.
We've got plenty of other options.
Later on the second quarter, they're driving down to score again, and this is the Tim Drysdale factor a little bit. You know, you never know where he's going to be. We bring him off the edge. We keep him in the middle. Right here, he's trying to put the quarterback in conflict, because the quarterback's trying to read him to determine whether or not he's going to give the ball or keep the ball. Tim gives him a give read and then changes it at the last minute. Allows some confusion. The ball ends up on the ground, and, you know, we've seen this before. Tim's pretty good at scoring once he gets the ball in his hands.
He has done that before.
Yeah. Once again, right before half, you get the David Clayton effect again. You got a lot of eyes on David. You see 1, 2, 3 people counting safety in the back. Eyes on David. Jack comes clean, runs a corner out, gets us down in the red zone. Come back the next play, and guys, I'm telling you, this really shouldn't have been that good of a play, but sometimes when we don't have numbers, really, we don't have a blocker for that inside linebacker, but Roshan, you know, sometimes you just got to give him the ball and let him do his thing, and he has a knack for making people miss.
God, he is so slippery.
So we go into halftime up 24-14. Definitely, you know, I got interviewed at halftime, and I don't think I was very happy. And the reporter kind of asked me, "Coach, you should be happy with this." And I was like, "No, you know, because at this point we'd let them drive down in the red zone twice, and didn't feel great about where we were defensively. We'd lost Cameron Hamway, had been ejected for a targeting foul, and so we're counting on Nick Hilson, a junior safety, to come in and make plays, and he had a pretty good second half. We'll see a highlight from him here in a minute. Right here you got Tim Drysdale once again coming off the edge on third down. And then the very next play, they tempo us a little bit, try and catch us off guard, which they kind of have us a little bit. We're getting lined up as they snap the ball. Nick Kilson fits down pretty good on the outside. And then we got Scrap Mazarine coming in on the inside, doing his job. We were able to stop him for a big fourth down stop at midfield. And then the very next play after that is where, Roshan does what he does, and we run a little buck sweep into the boundary, get one block and one-on-one. He makes a corner miss, and then outruns everybody else. He's a special player.
He really is, and you look at him and you just don't realize he's not that big a kid, but by gosh, he plays big.
That's right. Later on in the third, they go. This is after they scored on the kickoff return. So they return the kickoff for a touchdown here, and then they go for two. Guys, I can't tell you, how much time we spent on working on all the different options they have in their gate play here, but our kids, I was so proud of them. They got lined up well. You can tell they take it away right there. Don't make the tackle, but we have a lot of fight, a lot of heart, and we keep rallying the ball. Our nose guard ends up taking down the ball carrier. And that's a little bit of a momentum deflator. You can tell, the body language coming off the sideline. That anytime you can get a stop right there on a 2-point conversion, it's good. And then this is probably when the tide really turns. I think Heritage had some momentum going in right here, and they're gonna kick off, and pretty safe kick. They pooch it over here to Jack Ertz, but so proud of our kickoff return team. Those frontline guys, they all do their job. You're gonna see you see a lot of guys getting on their blocks. Right here you have Sean Price creating a seam, Austin Alexander creating a seam. You got Sam Assad coming backside, sealing off the back, and then you got Jack Ertz up to shoot, and
You even had one of your deep guys make a block that helps close that.
So Seth Tejada came back. We'll look at that again. Seth Tejada comes in and really cleans up one guy that came free right there. And so everybody did their job, and that's what you ask for your kickoff return team. Just be unselfish and make things happen. This was another fourth down, late in the third. We send a little inside pressure with Mazarine right up the middle. He gets able to get back there unseen and gets the big sack, fourth down.
And again, the body language is just showing that.
There's so much emotion in a game like this, and you start off both teams on this big high, and then, I think I said it in one of the pregame interviews. The team that can settle in the quickest, is the team that's going to end up having the most success, and so I think our team's the one that we were able to settle in and just play. At this point right here in the game, this is another fourth down for us, and it was 45-20 right here, and we put our jumbo package in, and we get two big blocks from Tony Campos on the down block and Diego Fergus on the lead, and Alexander's able to get his head down in there and punch it in, take the 45-20 score. And this is kind of when it started to get a little bit more comfortable at this point, just because of the time left in the game and where we were playing defensively at this point. And in the very next series, Tim Drysdale comes up big again and gets underneath the slant route and makes one miss and punches it in. And then this was this was a really good thing for the future of the Mustangs right here. It's the end of the game. The game's in hand, right? It's 52-20. It's fourth quarter, and we were able to put a lot of our twos in. Guys that hoping will be able to help us next year. We got Griffin Edwards at tight end, Jacob Edwards at X receiver, Seth Tejada at running back, and then a bunch of junior linemen. So, we really have run play called. Quarterback does a nice job of recognizing, I'm not going to get my running back killed with all these guys in the box, so he slings it out there, and then Sean Price with a huge block on the corner that's able to free up Jacob Edwards and make a big run. And then come back a couple plays later, and on a 3rd and 6, and he sticks it in the hole. Jacob makes one miss, and I'm telling you guys, Jacob Edwards is a good football player. He plays behind Alex Vergara, and he can make plays too. And so, the cupboard's not bare. We got some very good players in our junior class coming up and sophomore class. So, the future's still bright.
Well, that's good. That win, of course, brings you now to 7-1 on the season, puts you back in the hunt for the district championship.
Gosh.
Which takes us to this upcoming Friday night. You've got a big one, probably the odds-on favorite to win the district with the Ryan Raiders out of Denton.
Yeah.
Watched a little highlight on them. They got some pretty big, impressive young men on that team too.
They're in very tradition rich. They've won a ton of games. Over the last 10 years, in particular, the last 2 years playing in the semis last year, getting knocked out by Highland Park. It's a new team though. They graduated a lot of kids last year. Now, they have all their good, a lot of good players or young guys that didn't contribute a whole lot on that playoff run, but they are talented. And we have a tall task ahead of us this week. But every week we walk onto the field and odds don't look great. Our kids are never the biggest, but I know this: our kids have big hearts and they're going to play their tails off, and we'll see.
Well, there's no question, if you want to see attitude and effort demonstrated in a really positive way, you'll see it Friday night against the Ryan Raiders when they come to town. And interestingly enough, their head coach had your job in the past. Yeah,
Coach Hennigan's a great guy. I think still very well respected here in our community. Always did a great job here while he was the head coach, and we talk throughout the season, and we're looking forward to this one. It's a great opportunity to, if you want to measure yourself up against the state's best, you got to play the state's best, and Denton Ryan is definitely one of them. They're in every AP top 5 poll in the state, and so if we're wondering how good we are, we're going to have an opportunity to find out this week.
Well, Mustang Nation, let's get out to Dragon Stadium, 7 o'clock Friday night. We'll find out how your Mustangs do against the Ryan Raiders. In the meantime, men, Breakfast of Champions, Friday morning, 7 o'clock. It's well worth it. Don't miss it. Coach, appreciate the time. Congratulations on the big win. Congratulations on the big red rail sitting here in front of us. It is shocking. If you haven't ever seen this thing, go by the office and pick it up, because this thing is solid. But it's good to have it back home. Congratulations again. We will see you Friday night in Dragon Stadium.
All right, thank you.
Go Mustang! The Coach Alexander Show, brought to you by Kim Massage, your real estate broker.